Cyclone Sundays with Ben Bruns, powered by Kelderman Manufacturing. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Iowa Everywhere.
Welcome to the Channel Seed Studios. This is Cyclone Sunday, presented by Kelderman Manufacturing. I'm Aiden Wyatt, joined as always by Ben. Good riddance, Bruns. Maybe a little explanation behind that, maybe?
Yeah, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're good.
Right there with you.
I just wish we could have sent them off with an L, but it's a pretty good Texas team. I mean, the best money can buy, I suppose.
You might be onto something there. Iowa State loses 26-16. I think we got to start with the trenches. I feel like that was where Texas really beat Iowa State.
For sure, and let's start on the defensive side for Iowa State because Texas is paying their O-linemen $140,000 each, minimum, and we got 3 sacks yesterday. I felt like Iowa State's defense, and we, as much as they ran the ball, Iowa State really held up well. So I don't, everybody points to the rushing yardage being the difference in the game. And coach talked about that too afterward. And that might be right. But it wasn't because Iowa State gave up a ton of yardage or big plays, to the number 1 running back recruit in the country. Mm-hmm. It's because Iowa State couldn't run the ball at all. And, I think hats off to this D-line and this defense. I mean, Aiden, how much juice does Texas have at wide receiver now, right? And they just never broke big plays.
Yeah.
So much, right? I mean, Worthy is
it felt like a win that Worthy only had, what did he end up with? 77 yards? I think I'll take that.
Oh, for sure. I think Iowa State's defense played as well as you're going to play against a team with that much talent and that big of a payroll. I think on the offensive side of the ball, Iowa State, was not able to hold up to what it took, in order to win this game. And, Devondre Sweat's really good, number 93 in the middle, but I think the battle was really lost at the defensive end position. I think that's where Iowa State, really struggled to consistently maintain blocks. And, what looked like a gap to start with, what looked like a good scheme to run against to begin with, just got squeezed super fast. And I was really impressed with those Texas defensive ends. Big bodies that can really move, guys that can bend and flex, like we talked about with KU. And they just held up. They stood Iowa State's offensive line up and kept us from being able to, get any appreciable movement. And, I think there certainly was grumbling in my fan section, including, some members of the extended family about running the football as much as we tried to. But what a hard game to call, right? If you're, if you know that the pass rush is going to get home eventually, and know that it's going to be difficult to run the football, Nate Shieldhouse has got to call a game that's really limited. And I think he did a brilliant job with that. I really do. I think you don't get an extra point blocked and return for a touchdown or return for a 2-point conversion, 3-point swing on that play. Iowa State's in this game the whole way. I don't buy into the narrative that Iowa State was dominated through this game. If Texas really needed a score late, it may be a different kind of ball game, right? Like you may not. I felt like Texas had what it needed to go get a. If the game was tied, to put a drive together and get 3. Mm-hmm. And they were always one play away from a big play, but I think, and Iowa State wasn't, right? Except that we made some big plays.
Yep.
I think some masterful calls on that wheel route for a touchdown, and then the 4th down play with the Statue of Liberty look, where little fake little quarterback lead and throw it over the top. It was big time. It was really big time. I just think, first down and my, second and 11, right, is not or second and 8, right? Because there were a bunch of plays where we got a couple yards, but the hole just closed really quickly.
So I want to get your thoughts on this on the defensive side of the ball. It felt like Iowa State was one stop away the entire game. Just one stop, and then you're right back in it. And they get the stop, and unfortunately, Rocco throws an interception. But what was kind of your thoughts about that?
Great point, Aiden. And the interception, I had thought that Texas was going to turn over twice, and I thought Iowa State, if we could get out without a turnover, we would have a chance to win. And turns out, those margins ended up being about that, right? We turned it over once, they turned over once, and that's where the differential stops. That was not a good play, but it wasn't a good look. When we went up to the line of scrimmage, in that pick, there was nothing there. The safeties did not bite on the run fake at all, right? Because we're not running it, and so
right.
Now you're just relying on a guy to have to try and make a play, into double coverage or worse. But you're right. It's just like we're right there. And the offense was having to try and manufacture big plays. And I don't know that you get tired of throwing slants over and over and over again, right? But first downs are good. And we did that very successfully for a bunch of the game. Just think, hats off to Texas for being willing to stand in there and just grind it out. Texas had some creativity as well, offensively. I think the second drive of the game, Texas came out to try and just shove it down our throat, right? They came out bigger. They ran on first down for 11. But they kind of can't help themselves. They just like Sarkisian just wants to throw it, right? He wants to prove how smart he is. And so they gave Iowa State a chance, right? I mean, had an interception we had a chance to make a play on, and didn't catch it, but a great break on the ball. You get that one more turnover, like you're saying, and it could be a totally different ball game. And that's what Iowa State needed, right? We needed to catch that long punt that ended up, rolling 30 plus yards, and now we're backed way up, and then Texas is able to get a good field and score. So, I was surprised with how good Texas was in special teams. Better than years past, and it's a good football team we lost to.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. While we're on the defensive side of the ball, I think we need to take a moment and just appreciate Jeremiah Cooper being back. I mean, my God, that forced fumble is an unbelievable play. I saw someone tweeted a screenshot of two offensive linemen full steam ahead going at Jeremiah Cooper, and he forces the fumble.
It's he has a will to play and win, and I think that's one of the things I love most about this team. And Matt talked about it in his post-game remarks, no fear, right? And a bunch of the players talked about it in their post-game remarks too. No fear. Like, don't shy away from the moment. And, Jeremiah is one of those guys who, as they say, he's a dog, and, he shows up and gets it done. And, impressed with everything he's done. And we are a different defense having him back, but some other guys making big plays in the back end too. Huge pass breakup, late in the game, by 31 on our side. And just like, yeah, okay. Nicely done. I thought TJ had a great game, in his last time putting on a Cyclone uniform in Jack Trice. And hats off to that guy, right? Because he could have easily been playing for Texas this year or somebody else, right?
Yep.
He was heavily recruited in the NIL arena, and has stayed and chosen to play for Iowa State, and he's been a huge part of a turnaround here for our ball club.
While we're on the subject of senior day, take me through 20 years ago, give or take a couple years.
Yeah, more than that now. Holy cow.
Sorry to make you feel a little bit, but
yeah,
take me through kind of the emotions on senior day at Jack Trice Stadium.
I've said this before. I wish I could have savored it a little bit more. I was so focused on the game, and my senior year, we went 9-3 and won the first bowl game in school history. And we hadn't had a winning season, and Coach Mack had done so much to turn our program around. And we all believed in him and what we were doing. And I loved him coming live to us from the pool, by the way, on the We Will Collective.
That's vintage Mac right there, man.
It's like he just climbed out, man.
Living his best life.
Right? Exactly. And he's exactly right. Let's go get it done because it matters. And it does. We were playing Kansas, and they were good enough back then. And it was a chance to actually, really cap a season for us and go to a good bowl game. And we didn't know where we were headed at that point. And I appreciated, when I was a sophomore, junior, heck, even a freshman, you want to succeed for the guys that are seniors. And, as I looked at that roster of players who are seniors, there's a lot of guys who, have experienced a lot of success at Iowa State. But some of the biggest playmakers on our team, are not in that list. And I think that's a really important thing for coming years.
Yep.
I mean, I think we're in a position to jump off and really take this thing forward next year. But it's a heady day, man. It's hard. I was so caught up in wanting to win, and I didn't just really fully enjoy that time with my parents and Kate, my wife, in that setting. So I like seeing smiles on guys' faces when they come to senior day, right? Mm-hmm. Because I was all business, and I wish I would have taken a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Matt Campbell, it's always seeing him cry on these senior days always gets to me.
I mean, dude, he cares. He cares a ton. And I think, there were lots of things early in the season that weren't that much fun, right? For mm-hmm. Us as fans, but especially for the staff and the players. Yep. They didn't expect to, not play well and lose to Iowa or play extraordinarily. It's not even. They just weren't themselves, right, against Ohio. Mm-hmm. And but I think they discovered a lot of things about themselves against Ohio, and were able to fix it. And hats off, right? And when you're this young, right? Nobody expected to go into the season with down 6 players, right? But everything happens for a reason, and I think what you see out of Iowa State today, we're better for having had that situation happen. Those kids probably aren't better for having had this happen. The gift of college football is fleeting, and it's a life-changing kind of thing, and to have it taken away for decisions that by and large weren't just you would have never thought, right? But this team has rallied from it, and Matt Campbell, when you see how he cares about his kids, you understand why he gets a little defensive at times, and it's a hard road, and being in that locker room is a real it's a real blessing, and no one can ever really truly understand the dynamic of that team unless you're on it, and no one can ever take it away from him either. All the success, all the frustration, all of the love, all the pain, all of that. No one will ever take it away from this team and what they've accomplished. And there's still things out there to go play for.
Well said. Iowa State hits Kansas State next week in Manhattan. Always a tough place to play. House that Bill Snyder built, and it appears Chris Kleiman is putting a pool out back and starting his own thing out there. Yeah. How do you feel about Iowa State heading to Manhattan?
I think it's a tough game. I think it's a really tough game. I mean, I think K-State's going to be jacked. I think they, it's senior day for them too. And the biggest threat that this K-State team poses, I mean, they're always really good in special teams, always. And they're good at forcing turnovers. I think, but the biggest challenge Iowa State has is the running quarterback by design. And, we don't necessarily, how we fill gaps doesn't always account for that guy. So, you have to adjust the count one more player. And, I've seen us actually try to scheme against K-State, which we never do, right? We just run what we run. But there were a couple of years where we actually just put something totally different in to try and take on this quarterback run. And it wasn't very successful. So, I think the defensive coaching staff has their biggest challenge of the season this week. And, that's okay, right? Because there's a reason that John Heacock is a finalist for, the best assistant coach in the country. But you got to earn it, and K-State makes you earn it. And this will be a grind all the way to the end. What do you think?
I never like playing in Manhattan. I mean, it seems like Iowa State always has a tough time there. I was actually there in 2021 when, Breece Hall scored on the first play of the game, and it's like, yep, it's over. I don't got to worry about anything. But I think it might be a little different this time around.
Yeah, it is. I think this K-State team, they really bounced back. I did not think that Kleiman was going to be able to recruit the kind of athletes that Snyder had recruited and stay consistently strong, the way Snyder's teams were. And what they did, they just came back and won the Big 12 championship last year. So, even though TCU ended up going to the playoff. But, I'm impressed with this K-State program. And likewise, they should be impressed by this Iowa State program, because what Matt has done this season, is nothing short of just what the doctor ordered. And it was not easy, right? This was hard. I think we talked about it last week. I think it's his best coaching. I think it's the best season he's had from a coaching perspective. But at the end of the day, you may walk out of Manhattan 6-6, and you may walk out 7-5. Either one of those things, just go play your best football. And it's the offensive line. I want to go back to that one last time, because what you saw last week was our offensive line dominate a defensive front. What you saw yesterday was our offensive line not get dominated, but struggle, right? But struggle to be productive against, superior athleticism and strength. And I believe that's a place, following the path we're on, that position group is going to be able to play at a level that wins that Texas game in 2 or 3 years. We're just not there yet. And I think the rest of our outfit, right, defense, skill positions, etc., and it changes over time, right? There'll be guys that come and go in that period of time. But when Iowa State has a consistently dominant offensive line, and I do believe we're going to get there, you can go win that game yesterday, right? And you can go into K-State and feel really confident about how that game's going to go. We have a consistently vastly improved offensive line. All right. But they're not consistently a dominant unit yet. Mm-hmm. And, you can't expect them to be on Saturday either. But what you can expect is to, be more productive in the run game, be more productive in play action. And then that sets everything else up.
I'm right there with you, Ben. I think we're out of time here. Thank you, as always. Good stuff again. We now send it to our channel seedsman of the week, Andrew Burt. Sorry. All right, we now welcome into the Channel Seed Studios. We got a little dinged up Andrew Burt for a long day of tailgating yesterday. Iowa State loses to Texas. Andrew, how you feeling this morning?
Yeah, tough game last night. I thought the atmosphere was one of the better atmospheres that we've been to for a night game. It felt like it was a crowd that wanted to get behind the Clones. Unfortunately, it just felt like Ewers and Texas had a few guys that made a few more plays than us, and ultimately we did keep it closer than maybe some of the stats show, with not even breaking 10 rushing yards. But ultimately, I thought it was an awesome atmosphere. The fireworks continue to deliver, and a ton of people showed up for that game, and we just kind of learned pretty quickly that Texas has several guys that are going to make it to the NFL.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We talked a little bit before. Rocco Becht played one of his best games, I think. Finished 24-32, 323 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. But I think he outperformed Quinn Ewers. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I agree. I was very impressed with Rocco. I also was impressed with Ewers. I told you earlier that he can just deliver the ball almost like a shortstop turning the double play. He can throw it from a bunch of arm angles. He was very impressive in person, I felt, and had a lot of touch on his passes, but so did Rocco. I mean, the fluttering the 4th and 1 fake dive to Easton Dean that was great, and it was just nice to see him connect on all those passes with Noel and Higgins. I felt he had to be very accurate to keep the chains moving. I mean, it just felt like the running the ball was an automatic. It was just totally neutralized. So I was very happy that Rocco was able to hang in there against a lot of NFL D linemen and keep the chains moving with Higgins, Noel, and Bramer. It just felt like he had to pretty much get into a 7-on-7 style offensive game plan to move the ball on those guys. And then there was a couple of scheme up plays. The Sanders and Dean plays kept it close, and I'm impressed with Rocco. I think there's a lot to be excited about in the future with him.
I agree. Let's talk about the rush game. Not great. Just 9 yards on 21 carries. From the stands, what did it look like to you?
Well, I turned to some of the guys that I was watching the game with, and we just kind of said, "What do you do? Do you try to throw a wider?" One guy kind of said, I don't know if we try the old Paul Rhodes wide receiver screen game type stuff to move the chains," because it was very noticeable how big their offensive and defensive lines were. So it was very noticeable that they have several large humans that were pretty much plugging up Sanders and Sama right away. I mean, there was really it felt like there wasn't a lot of lanes, and felt like we were almost running the ball to keep them honest, and it did work at times keeping them honest because I think we had a couple play action hits, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, you could tell that was very early on. It was going to be it was going to be a Rocco Bet game. The rush game was going to be next to nothing. You could feel that in the stadium.
Yeah, right. Iowa State heads to Kansas State next week for the last game of the regular season. What do you think Iowa State's chances?
Well, I think it's a tough spot for us. I think Campbell probably is gonna enjoy having the chance to take this team on the road and maybe catch a K-State team that maybe feels like they're not able to play for the Big 12 championship game. However, that team has been impressive all year, and going into Lawrence and getting that game that's an impressive win, I feel. So the Clones are going to need to definitely run the ball for more than 9 yards, and I think Rocco needs to play pretty much exactly the game he played tonight down there, and hopefully some things open up and there's a couple bigger plays and get a couple more explosives and it's going to probably come down to the wire down there. It seems like it usually does.
Right. Yeah, it's always battle with Kansas State. Andrew, thank you for your time as always. This has been Cyclone Sunday presented by Keller Manufacturing from the Channel Seed Studios. We'll see you next time.